Hello everybody, this is Carmen with Elemental Designs, and I'm going to share with you guys some of my process here. This is probably going to be part 1 of part 2. I'm not sure when I'll get part 2 ready, but this is just to show you more or less how I went ahead and DIY'd the box. Now, my first intention was to use these plastics from a 2-liter bottle, and my backup plan was to use an actual divider from another embellishment box that I have that is a little bit larger. So I thought, okay, let me go ahead and do that and use these. But I tried the plastic, and with the hot glue, it was just an epic fail. It wouldn't stick, or it would come off easy. So I was scared that in the shipping, it was just gonna pop off, and she was gonna have all her embellishments pretty much in one big bunch. So I went ahead and opted for option 2, which was creating the division out of paper. So pretty much what I did is I kind of eyeballed it. I will have the measurements for the box itself as well as for the papers and the dividers that I did down below. So if you guys want to try this yourselves, then you can go ahead and feel free to do so. But this is more or less the DIY that I came up with. So I figured, okay, let me get some dividers going, and I cut myself a nice square. I had to kind of measure it and cut a couple times just to make sure that it fits just right, because the box itself, it's a little bit smaller in the bottom than it is in the top, because I guess since it's kind of curved in the bottom, it doesn't fit flush. And so my initial idea was like, okay, let me just go ahead and make these dividers, and I'm gonna make, I was kind of thinking, I don't know if you guys have seen, but they have, like, this is really, really old school, the ice trays. They were metal ice trays, and they used to have like, it was like a 2-piece ice tray, and then there used to be like this piece in the center that you can kind of had like a little lever, and you would kind of move the lever, and then it would break the ice apart, and then you would have your individual ice cubes. So I was thinking about something like that. I know the things that come into my mind in the middle of the night, it's like unreal, but I really wanted to like work on this because this thing is almost due, so I don't have a lot of time to fiddle around. So I'm thinking, okay, let me create some kind of a divider, and pretty much in my mind the template was that ice tray, and how that lever kind of moves the ice around. So I wanted to do a similar design, but without the lever, obviously, to that. Like, that's where my whole inspiration came from, believe it or not, was from an ice tray. So I went ahead and I measured the paper, and then I folded it in half so that it kind of fits in there nice and flush, and it's pretty much maybe 1/8 of an inch right under the edge of the tray itself. So I folded it in half, and then I have these openings, and I'm like, okay, what else can I do to these openings? How can I take this to the next level? So I thought, pockets. In these pockets, I can put little wound up pieces of washi tape, or I can make like tiny little tags or something of that nature that I can stick in here, kind of like a little added surprise to it. And so this is kind of like how this started to unfold. So I grabbed a piece for the center, like I had an extra piece that was a little bit longer, and I figured, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and put this in the center, but it was too short. So I ended up actually going back in and getting a piece that's a little bit longer, and more or less doing it in the same kind of way, just kind of folding the paper over a little bit, if you will. You'll see how I, more or less how I do it. It's not as easy for me to explain as it is for me to just show you. So I went ahead, and this is the first part, and I hot glued it, and I just wasn't happy with it. I didn't like it. To me, it felt very unstable, and although it served the purpose, I just didn't like the way that it looked. I didn't like the appearance of it, and I'm like, okay, I need to do something else to kind of kick this thing up a notch. So here we go again. Rip that part out, grab myself a longer sheet, I measured it in the inside, and more or less did the same thing over again. Now this time I did it a little bit different. I pushed it up against the edge, and as you can see, I have a smaller portion in the bottom than I do in the top. I went ahead and drew my lines for, more or less where the middle is, so that it's kind of, it has a certain level of being proportioned. I didn't measure the box too much. I didn't do too much math for this. This was a lot of eyeballing and just kind of freehanding it. and then just cutting out little notches, the smallest little notches in between each of the tabs, so that I can go ahead and slide my little envelopes in, keeping in mind that I was going to be putting things in it, so I wanted it to hold in place, but I also wanted it to be able to add some stuff inside of those little envelopes. Not too many things, you know, because it's a little tight, but still be able to add some things. So I decided, okay, I need a cover for the bottom, because this is going to look horrendous if I just leave it like this. So after I cut out my frame for the inside of the box, I'm like, okay, so how am I going to attach, you know, this whole little system that I got going on to the inside? So I thought, maybe if you draw a line in the center and you pretty much open up a slit, then you can kind of slide this piece in there. So that's what I did. So I started off by cutting off the notches in the shortest portion of my little tapped area. Now I'm sure that there's probably an easier way to do this, but this was my very first attempt, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I like the end result. You guys will let me know what you think after you see the whole video in its entirety. So I had to adjust it a little bit just to make sure it fit, and unfortunately I did kind of snap the paper into two, which can happen, but I kind of fixed that, and I was gonna end up covering it over again anyway, just to kind of cover up that area where I messed up. So it was kind of okay. It wasn't too much of a, you know, of a bad situation. So I just grabbed some extra scrap pieces and just kind of glued them over and made sure that I was able to close that up. And so now it's kind of like the Who's game. Is that how that game goes? Where you pick, you go flipping down the little faces until you figure out who your other person, you know, your opponent has. It's kind of like that situation. So I'm just adding little bits of scrap paper just to kind of make sure that I can secure it. And now I have like this little base. So I'm like, okay, cool. Now what else am I going to do to this base? Because I cannot just send it to her so plain and blue. And I'm like, I don't really like it. I need to do something to kind of spruce this up and also cover up some of my pencil lines. So I decided to go into my one of my scrapbook papers, and I have one that has somewhat of a Paris theme, which is the theme that I'm kind of going for with this. And so I picked this paper here. Not sure what it's called, but I will, you know, I'll name it down below. I'll add it in my products, you know, materials and stuff list. So here I'm going to glue this down, and the first thing I do is glue just the bottom part of it, not the tabs itself. And I'm going to go ahead and cut out, just as it is like that, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut out that that area. That's going to cover one side of, you know, one side that's facing the outside of the box. I'm going to trim off all of this excess. And yours might vary in sizes, because again, it depends on what kind of box you find. But I'm thinking that you can do this with Tupperware. You can do this pretty much with anything. So if you're looking to create, you know, if you're looking to make a different size embellishment box, or, you know, goodie box, or however you want to call it, then you can definitely use Tupperware or something else. I don't see why not. Because really the most important part of the embellishment box is the fact that it has these little divisions, you know, these little partitions in the tray. So you can pretty much use any, in my opinion, you can use any kind of box that you can find with a lid, any kind of Tupperware or, you know, storage container, so on and so forth. So now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, keeping in mind that I want them both to be facing in the same direction. So if you're using a pattern like this, where I'm using this one that has kind of like houses and buildings, just make sure that the buildings and the houses and everything are all pointing in the same direction, so you don't have, you know, one part of the city going one way and another part of the city going in the other direction. And I'm using my bone folder here just to kind of get the crease and make sure that I give myself enough space as far as paper, that I have enough paper that I'm not short on the tabs. And I'm going to cut these tabs out real quick, so that once I glue them down, I know exactly where it is that I have to cut, and I don't have to go through the whole measuring process again. And I'm going to hold them down with clips, and I'm going to glue the whole entire thing, and pretty much hold everything down with clips, so that I have it, you know, more or less in the right position, and also kind of leveled, so that they're not leaning more towards one side than the other. So as I go building the rest of it, everything fits in kind of nicely. And I really like it because you can see all around it. I wish that I would have found a lighter, like a clear box. I think it would have looked super cool in a clear box, but unfortunately all I found was blue. But it'll have to do for now. So here I'm just using up the rest of the scraps. Now I'm going to be covering up the little envelopes that I made, the little pockets. They're not really envelopes, they're just little pockets that I made, and I'm going to be covering it up with this paper, again keeping in mind that I want my pattern to all be facing in the same direction, so it kind of looks, you know, normal and makes sense. And I'm using up all the scraps. Now I didn't have enough to cover the third little pocket, so I'm just gonna grab one from an alternate paper pad that it's also kind of Paris themed. I know it sounded weird, and then I'm gonna use that for the third one, so that way I have one in the middle that is a little different than the others, but again keeping the color scheme and everything else kind of cohesive so that everything kind of makes sense. Now in the second part of this video, when I do my second part of this video, I'll show you guys more or less how I finished decorating the lid and the outside and so on and so forth. But I probably won't be sharing with you guys like the embellishments and stuff. At that point in time, I will share with you guys the recipient of this box, so that you guys can go over and check it out and see for yourselves, you know, her reaction to receiving the box, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be a little bit weird for her, but hopefully she likes it. I think it's super unique, honestly, and I just didn't really like the little ones. I'm just not somebody that likes to deal with little things. My hands are just not built for that kind of stuff. I need space. I need to be able to work around things. I'm too clumsy when I'm working with tiny little things, and that box is just way too small for me. I don't know how you guys do it, so kudos to you. So I got my little pockets ready, so everything is glued and dried at this point in time. I'm going to trim off any excess, and then pretty much finish cutting the rest of my little slits. Now that I have my little guidelines, it's easy. I'm going to go ahead and just remove a little notch, and you can go making it a little bit wider depending on how thick your pockets are. You can make it as wide as you need, but just do it a little bit at a time so that you don't overdo it and then you have a hard time kind of gluing it in place. Because if you do it too wide, then you're gonna have to put too much glue, and then it might not look so pretty. And so, you know, and take your time when you're doing this. I know that I kind of sped up the video, but it did take me quite some time to get this done. So take your time while you're doing it, because you will have to hold these things in place for a little bit as you go gluing them. Otherwise, there's a good chance that you're going to be either crooked or skewed, you know. So just take your time, because I did have to kind of fiddle with this quite a little bit to get it to work. But this is kind of like, if you want to do something like this, or if you're kind of stuck in a bind, like kind of how I felt I was, and you just want to do something a little bit different, or you want to work with a bigger surface, because pretty much that was the thing with me. I just wanted to work with a bigger surface. I know for a fact that me and little embellishments is just not going to work, so I need to be able to make things that are a little bit bigger. So here I'm kind of fiddling with it a little bit and just trying to get it into place. This Dollar Tree glue stick stuff is just not working with me too well. For some reason, even on the paper, it's just not gluing too well. But I did get it to stick at the end, but I'm just trying to like work with it as much as I possibly can, and trying to make sure that everything is as straight as I possibly can get it. Even though there really is no such thing as perfection, I did try my best to get it straight. So this is definitely one of those projects that turns into like a labor of love, just because of so many things you have to do with it. Although I do believe that with time, if I do decide to do this again, I'll probably do a way better job at it, because now I'm aware. Now I know the do's and the don'ts, and my mind is full of shortcuts now. I didn't have any shortcuts at that point in time. The road was long and treacherous, and I just walked straight through it. So I went through all the bumps and all the hurdles, but I think it was worth it at the end, and it definitely gives you guys another alternative. I'm really super happy with it. I love how deep it is. I love the fact that I can add bigger paper clips and just bigger things to it, and just add bigger embellishments without having to worry so much about size. And once I put the lid on, everything is nice and secure. It fits snug like a bug, so I'm good to go. I know for a fact that once I seal it and add my ribbon to it, or however it is that I end up closing it, I know it's not going to open on the way there. And if she wants to at some point in time remove this, she'll be able to remove it, because I'm just going to hold it down with some hot glue in the bottom. So that shouldn't be too hard for her to be able to pull the whole tray out, if that's something that she wants to do later on. So here again, I'm just kind of still fiddling it with it, and eyeballing it. And I'll be honest with you, I think this is the best position to kind of glue these things is to kind of put it on its side, and that way you can kind of see the straightness of it from multiple angles. And I think it makes it a little bit easier to just get all, you know, all the floors kind of leveled out, you know, all the panels kind of leveled out, and work with it a little bit better. Plus you get to hold it in place as you're doing it, so that kind of is also helpful. Trying to do it while it's in the box was a little bit, you know, was a little bit hard to do. So it's hard to see, especially from a sitting position. It's really hard to see what's going on inside the box when you're sitting down. So this way I was still able to sit down and just, instead of me going to the project, I brought the project to me and I just put it on its side. So hopefully that'll help you guys out a little bit when it comes to that whole situation, as far as getting that done. And this is like the hardest part of it, I think, overall. The embellishment is the fun part, so I'm gonna have a lot of fun decorating this box. I have a lot of ideas as far as how I want this box to look, so hopefully I'll be able to execute them and share with you guys what my process is for doing that as well. This is my very first embellishment box, you guys, and it's a DIY embellishment box at that, you guys. So I hope you guys can cut me some slack and give me a thumbs up anyway, even if you don't necessarily agree with my method, but just, you know, thumbs up for trying, right? Thumbs up for trying. So yes, you guys, we're pretty much almost at the end of this video. We're pretty much almost there. I was gonna share with you guys what I tried to do with the plastic, but I'm gonna continue to try that, and I'm gonna see if maybe I find another tray that is similar to this, and I'm gonna see if I can figure it out before I go into showing you guys that part of it. If I can figure it out, then I'll definitely be sharing that with you in the future, because I do believe that there is a way of doing it with maybe some 2-liter bottles or something like that, or some other kind of plastic that you might have lingering around. So I'm pretty much covering the bottoms now and just making sure that that bottom is nice and covered, you know, covering up all of those little pieces of scraps and just, you know, all of that glue and all that stuff that's going on under there. So that's the good thing, you can always cover it up. I'm also going to be attaching my you know, handmade by Elemental Designs little logo in the bottom, which is just a little printed label that I created. Nothing too fancy. But overall, it's very sturdy. I will say that. I mean, between the cardstock and everything else, it did come out really sturdy. And once it clips in, everything holds in place. It goes straight to the top of that edge. Now, it doesn't fall flush with the little compartments that has, but it doesn't really have to. It closes well enough that it'll hold everything in place. So that's all that really matters at the end of the day, that your embellishments are not flying all over the place. Here I'm kind of distressing the edges, and I will be inking up these edges. That is completely optional. It's definitely up to you and what your preference or your style is, and also the color of your box, you know, what you're gonna do with it. Since my box is blue and my edges are white, I didn't like that, so I just kind of went over them with some black, permanent black ink, just to make it look a little bit more completed and finished. So I kind of do that to the entire, you know, all the edges, all the roughed up edges. And yes, you guys, kind of makes it look a little bit more complete to me. So everything fits in nicely. I'm still able to open up my little envelopes, and yes, I'm very happy with it. Very happy with it. I did kind of notice though that I was messing up my little white mat, so I'm gonna have to figure something out, because I am one messy crafter, you guys, and I don't know if white is gonna work with me too well. So I kind of stuffed the envelope a little bit, the little pocket, just so that I can continue to glue on, and that way create some tension while it's gluing. So that's an option for you as well. It's just kind of stuffing the little envelopes so that it stands out, and that way you can really fill, you know, you can really glue them, you know, to the sides properly. So you guys, that is it for my DIY. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I will be sharing with you guys the second part of this video soon, probably within the next couple of days, because again, I do have to get this ready to go and going, and I do have to start working on my embellishments and everything else to go with that. So yes, you guys, let me know what you think, and as far as dimensions and everything else, I'll have all of that information in the description area. Don't forget to subscribe, like, thumbs up, and comments, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye.